Star Wars Squadrons is, without a doubt, the most immersive starfighter experience ever created.
I think I'm gonna enjoy this.
There have been worse ideas, I guess.
Squadrons is releasing in October this year, but EA just invited me to play the game early and capture some footage to share with you guys. And after playing the game for about 4 hours, it feels like I've only just scratched the surface, even though Squadrons is a smaller game than, say, Battlefront 2 or Jedi Fallen Order. I got to play the 2 main game modes in Squadrons, Dogfights and Fleet Battles, as well as take a look at customization, both cosmetic and ship upgrades, and also got to try out some of the tutorials, which you'll definitely need to play if you want to improve your skills at this game and actually know how to play. In terms of difficulty and how hard this game is, Squadrons falls somewhere in between Battlefront 2 Starfighter Assault and a more advanced flight simulator. There's a bit of learning to do, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be in complete control of your starfighter and will feel like you've got more control than ever before in any other game. It's really satisfying being able to switch power from your engines to your blasters, making your blasters more powerful, and then also firing a missile and taking down an enemy starfighter. That's just one example of some of the great moments you'll have in this game. Making bombing runs on capital ships is another. This gets really hectic really quickly, and you feel completely outgunned until you take down some of the ship's turrets. It's immersive, large-scale space battles like you've never seen before in Star Wars. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So today I'm going to take you through Squadron's game modes, dogfights and fleet battles, and also talk about customization, how the starfighters control and fly, how to actually fly them, and give you some early impressions of this game and some of my thoughts.
Well, this ought to be fun.
Is it a Star Wars game you're going to want to play? Because now that I've played it, I don't think it will be for everyone. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how the starfighters fly and control. How do they feel to fly? You actually have quite a high degree of control over your starfighter's movement and physics. The Squadron's developers recommend you play with a controller. I didn't try keyboard and mouse, but imagine it would be quite a different experience. And the build I got to play also didn't have VR or HOTAS joystick support, so I used a controller. With the standard control layout, the left stick controls the throttle and how fast or slow you're going. If you bring this all the way down, you'll come to a complete stop and just be floating in space. And the left stick also controls your starfighter's roll. I'll try spinning, that's a good trick. The right stick controls the pitch and yaw, or the direction in which you're flying, somewhat similar to Battlefront 2's controls. The right trigger is your primary weapon, which you can customize. I'll show you customization a bit later. And then right and left bumpers are your right and left auxiliaries. These you'll be equipping in customization. And the D-pad on the controller is very important. It's your power management controls. Up on the D-pad is more power to weapons, left is more power to engines, and down is more power to shields. And pressing right on the D-pad rebalances the power between all of them. Now the way this works is basically the more power you have in one of these, either engines, shields, or blasters, the more powerful that ability will be. So let's say you put all the power to your blasters, you'll have more firepower and your blast will do more damage. If you put more power to shields, you'll be able to take more damage and your ships will last longer. And more power to engines increases your maneuverability and speed, and also allows you to boost if you build the boost up. You also have control over your shield's direction, which is the X button on Xbox or the square button on the PlayStation 4 controller. And you also have buttons for targeting. The left trigger and the A button on Xbox and X button on PlayStation switches to the next target. And then it goes even deeper than that. There's a ping system. You can bring up a targeting menu, which allows you to choose what you want to be targeting. So say you only want to target enemy capital ships. Your targeting systems will only bring them up. And then you've also got the boost ability, which is on the button on your left stick, and you can eventually use this to learn to drift. I'm sure you've seen this in the Star Wars Squadrons trailers. You would have seen this being used in action. And I know this probably feels like a lot of information all at once. It becomes a lot clearer when you're actually playing the game, but there's definitely a learning curve to it. Squadrons encourages tactical, thought-out gameplay. Can't really just jump into a starfighter and be expected to become an ace pilot in your first space battle. You'll need to take your time practicing switching power between the different components and parts of your ship, figuring out which loadout and auxiliaries work best for you, and getting a feel for each ship and how it moves. There's also a practice range game mode which you can play to test all of the ships and all your abilities. I got to try all 8 starfighters that are releasing with Squadrons at launch, and one thing that has me really excited was that each of them feels different and unique. So far, my personal favorite is the A-Wing. Although it lacks the firepower to attack capital ships, you won't really do much damage to them with the A-Wing. It's one of the fastest and most maneuverable starfighters in the game. While flying the A-Wing and also the TIE Interceptor, I felt like I had the best chance of escaping enemy fighters on my tail, and also the best maneuverability and firepower to take down the enemies. That was unless I got near a capital ship, at which point my weaker shields and hull really didn't stand much of a chance. Also, the fact that some starfighters have shields and others don't makes a real difference. The TIE Fighter, TIE Interceptor, and Bomber don't have shields, and this requires you to fly them quite differently, being conscious that although they might have a stronger hull and might be a little quicker, going up against a capital ship alone probably isn't a good idea. You need to use your other assets like their speed and countermeasures to navigate your way around the battle. These become very important. Can't rely on shields. But using your shields with the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, A-Wing, U-Wing, and the TIE Reaper, I found to be quite fun. And there were definitely times I found myself switching the direction of my shields from front to back to balanced. When approaching a capital ship head-on, I direct all my shield strength to the front to avoid extra damage, and towards the back when I finished my bombing run and was making my way around for another turn. This made a real difference in my ship's strength, and it felt like it was capable of taking a beating. And one thing I loved, chasing down A-Wings and Interceptors feels almost impossible unless you're flying a ship of that class. They're so quick and so nimble, much more than in Battlefront 2, that each time you start firing at one, they can quickly change direction and escape. It's almost impossible to hit these guys. And this is unique to this class. Okay, next I'm going to talk about how each starfighter class feels completely different. The fighter class, including the X-Wing and TIE Fighter, are your all-round kind of style fighters. They're capable of both taking down other fighters, as well as attacking capital ships and dealing decent damage. Bomber class, including the Y-Wing and TIE Bomber, aren't the best at taking out other ships and starfighters, but deal heavy damage to capital ships. The Interceptors, A-Wing and TIE Interceptor, are specifically for taking down other starfighters. They'll do very little damage to capital ships, and there's almost no point in using them for this purpose. And the support class, including the U-Wing and TIE Reaper. They're also heavier ships which have the ability to resupply allies and are probably somewhere in between fighters and bombers in terms of maneuverability. They also have some unique abilities like the tractor beam, which can be used to momentarily disable enemy ships. Saw this being used a few times, and it's quite a unique ability. Okay, next, I want to mention one of the best mechanics in Squadron, something we are really not used to seeing in Starfighter or flight games: collisions. Most games you play, the second you crash into the ground or an asteroid or another ship, your starfighter instantly explodes. In Squadrons, that's not the case. Your ship is capable of bouncing off all of these things. Instead of just exploding, you'll take a bit of damage. Your windshield even cracks sometimes. I love this addition to the game, and flying in first person isn't really a problem either. I was worried that I'd be misjudging where the sides of the ship are, as in first person, my full view of the ship is limited. But this wasn't a problem at all. Wherever you're facing and what you see out of the cockpit is the width of your ship. I'm pretty sure that's how it works anyway, because even when squeezing through some of the tighter gaps, I had no issues with field of view collisions. One thing I will say, I did find the HUD to be confusing at times, and this is something I think the developers are aware of. The aiming reticle is clear, but when firing some of the starfighters' auxiliary attacks, such as missiles and torpedoes, I was a little confused as to when something was locked locking on and which ability was doing so. Also, you have to pay attention to the actual cockpit dashboard, which displays your weapon cooldown, as well as your ship's health, shields, and the amount of missiles and auxiliary powers you have left. There's actually an option in the game to turn off lots of the HUD, switching to instruments only, which is a more immersive hardcore experience, requiring you to rely solely on the cockpit's dashboard for enemy locations and objectives. I gave this a go, and I can see myself using it a bit further down the track, but having only played the game for a few hours, it was hard to actually figure out what I was doing. I was just getting confused, not knowing where to go. Hardcore experience. Next up, I want to talk a bit about Squadron's maps and why I think they're really good. Very different to Battlefront 2 Starfighter Assault maps. I got to play fleet battles on the Nadiri Dockyards map, Yavin Prime in the Fleet Battles tutorial, and Aceles in Dogfights. Each of them felt very unique from one another. If you want to learn more about the planets, I covered them recently in a video. I'll link in the top right hand corner, more of the backstory of the planets. Aceles is an Imperial listening station located in an asteroid field, and most of the starfighters were either flying over the top or underneath it. But what I loved about this map was that it felt like there was ample cover for you to hide behind and fly through. Let's say if someone started firing at you from behind, you could quickly duck into the Imperial station and fly through here and then swing out and start looking for your next target. Yavin Prime is a wide open space map where you can actually fly down into the clouds to get cover. Pretty sure that's the only cover in this map because I played this in the Fleet Battles tutorial and definitely feels like one of the larger, more exposed maps. There's not really much cover in the open space. And then the Nadiri Dockyards. Before loading into a match of fleet battles, you'll be standing in the briefing room amongst your fellow squad mates. From here, you can look at the battle plan of what you're going to be doing when you get in the sky, emote with one another, and also go into the hangar to inspect and modify your starfighter. You can't actually walk around anywhere here, but you can jump to different viewpoints and inspect the starfighter from different angles. And then on the map itself, each team's capital ships are separated by the dockyards. These are in the center of the map and you'll have to fly through them to get to the other team. Thought this was quite unique and definitely separated the battle into different sections. Fleet Battles is the large-scale game mode of Star Wars Squadrons. In the first phase, you'll have to destroy enemy starfighters, which will boost your team's morale and allow you to advance the line in the space battle. From here, you'll then be trying to destroy enemy teams' frigates. These are the smaller ships guarding the big capital ships. And at the same time, there'll be some light cruisers like the Corellian Corvette flying by and defending their team. All of these are AI controlled, unfortunately. This is just a starfighter game. But they deal heavy damage and are armed with lots of auto turrets, so stay clear of these if you can. And then it's onto the larger capital ships, which you have multiple ways of taking down. I think they've taken a page out of the original Battlefront 2 space battles with this stage. Targeting different parts of the capital ships will break down their defenses and expose them in different ways. You're capable of going after the capital ship's shields, trying to disable them first, or you can also try disable all the ship's turrets. And once you eventually weaken the ship's defenses, it'll become exposed with these blue crevices, which you can target to deal extra damage and finish off the ship. Throughout fleet battles, gameplay will be kind of like a tug of war. You're advancing against the enemy team, attacking their frigates and capital ships, and then the enemies are pushing the line back and attacking yours. And this is where team play is really important in Squadrons. I really like that if I tried to sneak around and approach enemies' capital ships too early, I'd pretty much immediately be blasted out of the sky. Their defenses are still up and there's not enough of your team nearby to lend you support. I also found it useful in this game mode to start off as a fighter or interceptor, and then when getting up close to their capital ship, switching to a bomber to try deal more damage. You can also fly back to your capital ship and fly inside the hangar to switch starfighter, or just change in the respawn menu. I only played fleet battles for just over an hour, but even in that time, I can see how improving my piloting skills would be really rewarding in this game mode. At first, it does feel quite daunting as it's very easy to get killed, especially as you get closer to the capital ships. I was finding time and time again the turrets would take me out as soon as I got anywhere near, but I can imagine how playing this game mode with a group of friends all on microphones would be lots of fun. There's a big emphasis on team play, and the team that coordinates their attacks and starfighters successfully is going to win the battle. Okay, now I'm going to talk a bit about customization, including both cosmetic and mechanical that affects your ship's weapons and auxiliaries. There's a lot to go over here, and I'm probably going to make a dedicated video about this. At the moment, you have 5 male and 5 female pilot appearances to choose from, along with 4 different species for the New Republic, including the Twi'lek, Abednedo, Duros, and Celestin, my personal favorite. And you can't actually customize the facial appearance of the pilots. You've basically just got a bunch of different heads to choose from, which is cool. I'm not bothered by this, it's okay. You also have different helmet options, flight suits, or if you prefer to wear more casual attire, there's options for that also. You can change your pilot's gloves, there's a long list of emotes, some of which are in Battlefront 2, and we've also got victory poses as well as different voices for your pilot based on their personality.
I'll outfly any Imperial pilot.
You'll hear these as they're flying during the battle at different points. This is something I really wasn't expecting.
I am an unexpected variable.
It's really strange seeing the Celestin speak English though. I hope that we actually get a Celestin voice. Okay, now on to starfighter customization and all the different components. You've got 7 different slots for components. First is your primary weapon, next is left auxiliary for things like repair droids and other missiles. The right auxiliary is also for weapons and other components. Countermeasures is to deter enemy missiles along with things like sensor jammers. You can customize the hull, different ship hulls give you different perks like the ability to take more fire, go off radar. Shields, an option not all starfighters have, and your engine, again coming with different perks and abilities. Now for paint jobs. You won't be able to customize specific colors on your starfighter, but you will have a choice of a paint job, with everything from the classic to the extravagant. And you can also add decals and symbols to your starfighter. Now onto the cockpit, there are several holograms you can choose from, which will be positioned differently in each starfighter, and what I know everyone has been waiting for, bobbleheads. At the moment, there's only a few different ones to choose from, but there'll potentially be more customization options, cosmetic anyway, at launch. And you've also got an option to hang a little trinket or keychain on the window of your cockpit. Star Wars Squadrons is set to release on October 2nd, and after getting hands-on with the game, I can't wait to dive back in and go even deeper into this game's customization, its gameplay, and combat system. It's like nothing else I've played before, not to this level of detail and starfighter mechanics as well. There's a lot of fun to have here, and now that you've seen more of Star Wars Squadrons, what are your thoughts? And do you guys think you're going to play this when it releases? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to be making more videos about Star Wars Squadrons probably in the next few days, so stick around for more details about customization and some more footage I haven't shown you guys yet. And follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord. For more Star Wars Squadrons, Star Wars gaming, come join my Discord community, come say hi, and more. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.